Okay.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. So, welcome to the Unheard Cries of a Mother podcast, where we dive into raw, unfiltered stories of motherhood, the joys, the struggles, the sacrifices, and triumphs. Here we amplify the voices that are too often silent. They go unheard, shining their light in incredible strength, resilience, and love of mothers around the world. I'm Sabrina Ben Salmi, your host, and I invite you to join the Unheard Cries of a Mother podcast. Behind all the smiles, sharing the lessons learned, and the aim is to create a community that uplifts, supports, and inspires. Let's honor the unheard cries of mothers and celebrate their silent victories of motherhood. Help me to welcome our special guest today, Ganiyat. I really hope that you are open, able to listen to this amazing story. I was moved when I actually had the pleasure of meeting you, and I really am blessed and grateful to be able to share your story with the world on this platform. So, welcome and introduce
Thank
yourself
you.
to the audience.
Thanks for having me. My name is Ganiyat. I am Nigerian, but I'm also British. I've been here since I was 16, and I'm a mum of two.
Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. So, the first question that I'm going to start with is,
Mm.
can you share a pivotal moment in your motherhood journey that shaped who you are today?
So I have thought about this question quite a fair bit, and I don't have a pivotal moment,
Mm.
to be honest. But um, okay, one comes to mind. I've been toying around with a few, but one comes to mind. Before I had my son, I had a couple of miscarriages, and then I always knew I wanted at least three kids. But because of other things that were happening, I knew I'd be very happy with one or two. So when we started trying for the second baby, it took a while and I had miscarriages again. And I remember it was when I'd actually given up trying that I then fell pregnant. And the same week I found I was pregnant, a few days before I found out I was being made redundant at my role. So imagine getting told you're getting made redundant or your role is being made redundant on a Wednesday, and by the Friday I found I was pregnant. And something within me told me this one was staying. Something told me this pregnancy is staying. And it was one of those things where I really had to make a decision to protect myself and my baby. And not, I mean, my first reaction was I wanted to go to burn the building down at work because I was just that angry. But then I thought, okay, that's not going to help anyone. And I'm allergic to crime. So I thought, okay, that's not really setting a good example.
I knew you were going to make
So,
me laugh.
so I mean, I wouldn't even take a speeding ticket from my husband, even though it was my car. I was not driving. But yeah, so that for me was the first time I had to park like all my innate beliefs and protect my child. So for me, that was, and that took everything within me to not fight, to not talk about the injustice, to not, play the office politics. So for me, that's the biggest one I've had to do. And that went on for about a year and a half because then the role I was given, um, as a replacement role or whatever was like a demotion that was kind of coded up. And that also came with um so I had more responsibilities, but then I took a salary cut of 17 grand, which was just, but I had to just put in the front of my mind, like, this baby's staying and I have to stay well. I have to stay stress free. I have to just, and I remember I kept repeating to myself, it's only money, I can make money. It's only money, I can make money. But this baby is staying and this is it. So everything else is, so that for me was quite pivotal because I had to make a decision solely based on being a mom. So that's the one that came to mind.
You know what stands out for me as you share that is the strength that it would take.
Mm-hmm.
I have the blessing of coaching people from various backgrounds, and
Mm.
I meet so many women that experience miscarriages. I meet so many people that experience redundancies, and for you to have to deal with both of them at the same phase of your life, that takes so
Yeah.
much strength and courage.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I just really want to acknowledge that. I don't want to move
Thank
on
you.
past that, because
Thank you.
it's incredible. What a pivotal moment. And just to hear that voice saying this one's staying, how
Yeah.
beautiful. And prioritize your health. Your
Yeah,
health.
absolutely.
Let's reduce our
Absolutely.
stress. Let's just be
Yeah.
focused.
Yeah.
Life can't be replaced, but money can. That's
No, no, it's, I mean, I know the young kids don't say YOLO anymore, but I do. You literally,
we'll choose what we like.
but yes, they keep saying, Auntie, we don't say that. I'm like, I don't
Yeah.
care.
They
YOLO.
always like to remind us that we're quite behind.
I know.
Oh, it's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. That is absolutely
That's fine. No problem.
beautiful.
Problem.
So my next question for you is, what one part of your story do you feel has gone unheard or unacknowledged? What do you think is your unheard cry?
Um, I think the unheard part is, I don't know how to phrase this, but it's like, it's one thing to be a mom and be expected to just do everything without having any sort of training on it. But it's another thing to be a Black woman and you're just expected to have this strength. I don't know where they think we get it from. And that annoys me a little bit. And I don't think, because for someone like me that lives here, you have the microaggressions at work, on a race thing, and then you have um I'm married to an African man, so they have this idea of the woman does everything. So there's that. And they just assume, like, I literally had to remind my husband, I think it was last year when I was in the middle of telling him off. I wrote him a letter because I didn't want to shout. And I said, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing. And as you know from my story, I didn't have a mum growing up. So I don't have anything I'm supposed to take from. So for me, it's that thing of they just expect you to know what you're supposed to do. And like I said at the beginning, one thing I'd like to leave people with after this is just know that you will know what to do, because that's my experience. You will, once you become a mom, you will know. And for me, motherhood didn't start until I had the baby and I was holding the baby. Pregnancy, there was no connection. It was this alien growing in there. I don't know what was going on in there. As long as I went to the hospital and everything was fine, that's fine. To me, it was, I mean, I called my first baby Bob because I hated people. So the baby, Bob. And then the second one I called her Primrose because I just needed to give them names. So it's just, well, it was Peanut, but we changed the Primrose. So it wasn't a baby until it was a baby. And I was like, okay, okay. And then you kind of just know what to do. But the unheard thing is just, we don't know what we're doing. So the society, which is mostly men, and men need to know that we need as much help as possible. Like sometimes just asking how you are or what your day is like is a big, it makes a man actually care to listen, makes a big difference. So, and I think as women, we don't say it enough that we just need to be checked up on. Like, I don't know. That's my thing. Like they just expect you to know what to do. And people that are even fortunate enough to have their parents with them or whatever, they still don't know what to do because at one point the mom's not going to be there the whole time. So yeah, it's just people just need to know that as women we carry a lot and we need a lot of help, but also acknowledgement. Just recognize what we're doing because I mean, I'm sure if men could get pregnant, they wouldn't choose to be pregnant. I wish they would. But you know, they're
I don't think
working
I would
on
cope, to be honest. I'll be
artificial
running around saying,
wombs.
"What are you doing, my baby?" Can you be
I know you we will be watching them like a hawk, like, yeah.
you know
Because
you
even me with the second baby, it took everything in me not to correct him when he's not doing things right. But I'm just like, the more you say, the more he'll be like, okay, fine, you do it then. So I'm just like, as long as you don't drop the baby, do what you want.
you know you've touched on so many golden nuggets. I love the fact of that silent unheard cry. There is an aspect of women pouring out and not being heard. but there's
Yeah.
this silence. And I love the fact that you said, I wrote a letter so I wouldn't shout. I think that's
Yeah.
such a brilliant practice, because you don't have the space to get everything down on paper. And when
Mm-hmm.
someone's reading the
Eight
letter,
pages,
oh, wow. That's
handwritten.
therapy in itself. That is therapy in
It's,
itself.
yeah.
You know, just being able
I
to
had to
face.
remind him of all the promises he made me.
Oh,
Because
that's
he asked me 4 times before I said yes to marrying him. So it wasn't like I was looking for a husband. So, and every now and then I remind him I did him a favor by marrying him. So the least you can do is help me with these kids that are actually yours and they look exactly like him.
I think that's beautiful. But I really want to just touch on, I don't want to comb over the really important points that you've touched on. The fact of when we're pregnant, it's different for everyone. I
Yeah.
speak to so many mothers who say things like, when I was pregnant, it was wonderful, it was beautiful, it was amazing. Well,
Mm.
actually, some women, there is no feeling. I'm pregnant,
Hmm.
and realization isn't until I see the scan or until I have the
Yeah.
baby in my arms. And I really
Yeah.
love the fact that you were vulnerable and open enough to share that with the audience, because there's
Hmm.
going to be someone listening to that that can really relate, because there's so
Yeah.
much mum guilt. We have so much mum guilt. Is it okay to feel like this? Do other people feel like this? Am I a bad
Do
mum?
you know, I don't have that. I don't have any sort of, no,
I love
honestly, because I think I've had mom guilt once when I didn't take my son out of the nursery he was in sooner.
Mm,
That's it. I should have taken him out of there sooner. But apart from that, I have zero mom guilt because again, it's one of those things that's been coined by society and we've
mm,
decided to adopt it as some sort of badge of honor. No,
exactly.
like
Free
it's
yourself
not.
from that.
I think for me, ever since I've become a mom, and I'm learning about myself. There's so many things I'm trying to unlearn and deconstruct and challenge. I mean, I can challenge anything,
Mm.
but so I'm just like, mom guilt. You don't, did you, do you, have you ever heard dad guilt, Sabrina? Okay, thank you. Enough said.
Just as a note, I know to our listeners there are some amazing dads out there. We're not, we you know exactly what we're referring to. But yeah, that's a
Mm-hmm,
very good point. But what I do love is actually you saying about unlearning, you saying about tapping out of it, because the reality is what you're kind of bringing to light for me is a saying that for women we are everything to everyone, but who are we to ourselves?
mm-hmm,
And there's that
mm-hmm.
avalanche of expectation of
Yeah.
how, what's acceptable for you to be coined a perfect mum.
Mm-hmm,
I remember a very quick story actually in my motherhood journey, where I just remember sitting down with my children and said, I all I have for you is my imperfection. I am not perfect. I'm going to get it wrong. But one thing I will always do is
mm-hmm,
be willing to
mm-hmm.
learn and listen. And by teaching
Absolutely.
me, we can have that
Yeah.
better relationship. And that
Absolutely.
was such a freeing and liberating moment,
Yeah.
because I no longer have to fit into these societal expectations of me. I just
Exactly.
had to be right for my
Exactly.
children. And I
Exactly.
love that you've touched on that. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Was there something else you wanted to add before I move on to the next question?
No, 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 no.
Brilliant. I'm loving this. Thank you so much.
That's
Um,
okay.
so the next question that I have is, has how has motherhood challenged your sense of identity? We were just sort of crossing into that.
Mm, massively, because and I only realized this, I think, when I was pregnant with my second child, the redundancy, blah, blah, blah. I realized how much of my identity was tied into what I did, my job. Because uh, to be fair, the only ambition I'd ever had was to be a mom. Well, I wanted to be a dancer, then I wanted to be a mom. So I didn't have I fell into the accounting and finance field I'm in, and I'm great at it, by the way. But it's not something I'm passionate about, you know. The only ambition I had was I knew I wanted to be a mom. So for me, like I said, once I became a mom, I then realized, okay, who am I? Like, who am I? Like, because it's almost like a chartered accountant is what I am. It's not who I am. There's a difference. So I had to then do like a whole values-based exercise. What are my values? What are the things I believe in? So I've been doing that over time. and it's still evolving, which is why I think now, and also comes with age. You know, when you just get to an age where you're like, nobody can tell you nothing. Like, I like my favorite phrase this year, because I turned 45 in January on New Year's Day. My favorite phrase is, I don't care. I've
Me
said
to
that
relate
every
to
day
that.
this year. Don't care. And I say it with such joy. Like, no, I actually don't care, you know. So, but for me, I had to really be like, okay, who am I? So it challenged me, but in a good way, because then I figured out what was important to me. Like my husband, he was asked once, what's your, what's the happiest place, or what makes your wife the most happy? And he said, all of us sitting on the sofa with the kids sitting on top of her, and we're watching, I don't know, Peppa Pig or something. Like, just that's my, that's my favorite. Like, every day, if I have that, I'm happy to die happy. So for me, it was knowing what that values was. I know that, okay, this is what I would stand for, this is what I wouldn't stand for. And same what you said just before, like you said to your kids, I'm not perfect. You have to, and I said the same thing to my siblings when I think actually 20 years ago, when I was 25, I said, I'm not, because I'm the first of seven. I'm like, I'm not anybody's role model. So if you don't have enough brain cells to figure out that I will get things wrong and you can learn from it, then I can't help you. But the good, the bad, you take it all. I'm not here to live my life for you. I'm here to live for me, and I have no idea what I'm doing anyway. So if you can't learn from that, I can't help you. And I kind of adopt the same thing with my kids as well, in a way. But I told my son the other day the five basic things I needed to provide for him like basic necessities, and everything else was extra. So like things like going on holiday, because I think he was saying, could we go to Barbados this year? No, Bahamas. I'm like, how do you even, he's seven. So I was like, first of all, I don't know where that is. My geography is awful. Secondly, are you paying? So I had to outline. So I said these five things, and then everything else I do, you can watch me, you can ask me questions, but don't expect me to know everything, because I'm still learning, as you know. And one thing now, when we're having a conversation about stuff, and he asked me something, I said, I don't know. He go, Mommy, go on Google, let's have a look. And then we'll have a look together and we'll learn about it together. So that's kind of what we do. But yeah, it's I'm still evolving, I'm still learning who I am. I'm enjoying it. But I know that, because for my kids, I say to them, I'm their responsible adult. So I believe children are a gift from God, and you have to be a very special person, being entity, for God to bring kids through you. So, and when I dedicated each of them at church, I literally gave them back to him. So I will do my best to make the best decisions for them, guide them, but they're not my property. Because growing up, my dad treated his kids as investments and property, and things that belong to him that will have a return on investment. He's still waiting for me anyway. But you know
Believe
what I
me,
mean?
you've been blessed. Children
Like
never.
now he calls to ask about the kids, and it's weird because I'm like, you never call me just to ask about the kids. You call me because you want something.
Mm.
But yeah, so it's very much like my whole sense of identity has changed since I became a mom. But also, when I'm introducing myself to people, I don't always go with the I'm a mom thing, because I'm me first, and my family know me. The rule in my house is mommy comes first, and then the baby, and then my son, and then, well, up until last year, then my husband. Before then, he was like number seven. But yeah, so it's like if I'm not whole, I can't give anything to anybody else. So as much as they're special to me or whatever, but I still have to know who I am, so I can impart knowledge. They can watch me. I can, but also I have this thing in the back of my head, like in the future, I want my kids to be able to be like, oh, when this and this was happening in the world, or when this situation happened, this is what mommy did to make it better, or to make it, because one of my values is making a difference. So
Mm.
but that's kind of like across the board. And my son especially knows that I'm a mom to many people. I love kids. I mean, I don't like changing other kids' nappies, but I love kids. This is why I can't work in a nursery, because I can't change other babies' nappies. Once I get over that, I might think about it. But so I'm always like, oh, what are you doing? What we like? I can come down to their level and play with them or whatever. But yeah, it's fun getting to know who I am outside of everything else, including being a mom. So being a mom's actually given me that opportunity to not relive my childhood, but kind of see the world from their eyes, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful. You know, while listening to you, so many things came up. I really loved how you touched on us stewarding children as a
Yeah.
gift from God and that through me process. And I don't know if
Mm.
you've seen the autoresponder on my WhatsApp or on my email. I've got a poem that actually really kind of expands on that, because I had that sacred awakening where, you know, I didn't want to
Mm.
be an authoritarian parent. I do love traditional
Hmm.
parenting, don't get me wrong. I'm not a
Yeah.
free
Yeah.
parent. But I felt that actually this child is not a blank canvas. Before that
Hmm.
child entered my womb, something was deposited inside of them that I don't understand, that God will reveal to
Yeah.
me eventually.
Mm.
But that
Mm.
stewarding of a young soul, I think it's
Yeah.
so sacred. And I also,
Mm.
I love the fact that you mentioned, like, always speaking to clients and girlfriends about this point, about women not caring, getting to that threshold of not caring. And I wanted to
Yeah.
talk a little bit on that, because what I love is that sometimes it comes as a very abrupt nature. And to unpack
Mm.
that is that it's years of erosion.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And you know, women are often taken for granted in the household, in the family.
Hmm.
You are
Yeah.
everyone to everything, everybody, but who
Yeah.
are you yourself again? And I
Hmm.
remember speaking to a friend of mine about this, the feeling of years of erosion. So women get to those thresholds of 10, you know, like 20, 30,
Yeah.
40.
Hmm.
And there's a
Hmm.
shift that they
Yeah.
just can't tolerate what they used to tolerate 10 or 5 years ago.
Absolutely.
But it's
Yeah.
not an overnight process. The bit where
No.
women say they don't care is because they've been pushed so much and eroded of not being cared
Hmm.
for, and they have to literally scream at the
Yeah.
world and say it
Yeah.
has to stop. I'm tired. I'm
Yeah.
drained. I'm
Yeah.
burnt out. Like, I'm here. I have feelings.
Hmm.
I really thought that was a really important
Yeah.
point that you touched on. I remember reading a book with my children, actually, a Dr. Miles Monroe book. What you when you were talking
Mm.
about the order, and I'm not sharing this to change what you said, but this is something that I learned. So growing up,
Yeah.
I always had this impression of, you know, it's the kids first, and you know, if when I'm married, the husband has to choose the kids, and I have to choose the kids. And when
Yeah.
I learned this lesson, I realized something really powerful. There's a YouTube video about it as well. They were talking about that we're doing things wrong sometimes. And they
Mm.
said that we have to learn to love our husbands first, because the two are
Mm.
supposed to be one, and then we love the children together. Because otherwise, that relationship that was there before the children came along
Yeah. Yeah.
becomes expanded, and you're at one end and the husband's at the other end, the kids in the middle, they grow up, they go off into their life, and you're like, look at the husband and they're a stranger. And I thought
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
so interesting, because even kids will say, no mum, the kids come first. And you kind of go, actually, I never thought of it like that before. And it really shifted my mindset around that. And I really liked the fact that I shifted it. And you know, his eyes start sparkling and he's like, oh yeah, I like that. But it's something, it's some really good food for thought, just to think about that divine order, and how, you know, these men, there are babies, and sometimes they feel that distance as babies come on board. And
Well, yes. And I'm going to challenge what you've just said. So before 2019, first of all, like I said before, I didn't really want to get married. He had to convince me to marry him. And my husband did this thing where wooing me for whatever, wooing me. The minute I said I was going to marry him, he just relaxed and started acting like we'd been married for 50 years. So, and I had to check it, because then I broke off the engagement. I'm like, well, I don't know about this, but this is not what I signed for. Because he was like, well, I found my wife, I don't have to do anything else. I'm like,
mm,
yeah, I don't know who she is, because she's not me. So we broke up. And it took about 5 days for him to realize, because it was like, okay, fine, I'm sorry. And then it took 5 days for him to realize what I actually needed him to get, and he got it. And he
mm,
promised me that it was never going to happen again. So when we did get married, yes, obviously he's very important, blah blah blah.
yeah,
So it's very much my husband, my husband, my husband, us together, us together. But it was after I became a mum, and I was, like I said, I didn't have any help. I didn't know what I was doing. I was completely overwhelmed. I just moved out of London, moved here, I started a new job, blah blah blah. All these things were happening. I wasn't sleeping, and I had a massive mental breakdown. I was signed off work. Occupational health had to like sign me back in like months later. Like, so it took me to get to rock bottom to realize how much I needed to take care of myself and put
absolutely.
myself first. So, and I feel like if that didn't happen, because I was doing it, I was cooking, I was cleaning, I was doing this, I was working full time. I'm the one that gets up when the baby cries. Somehow he can sleep through the noise. I don't know how. But like, so I was just exhausted and it was just me. I just felt like it was the loneliest time ever in my marriage, those first 2, 3 years of being a mom. So, but it took me having a breakdown. I remember one of the first things that the GP said to me when I went to see her was, you have to tell your husband how you're feeling. She's like, you have to tell him because if like it's either you have a break or you have another breakdown. That's just what's going to keep happening. So I had to make a decision to put myself first. So that's
That's
what
so
challenged that whole
foundational.
thinking of. And to be fair, if the workload as a parent was, I know it's not going to be 50-50 all the time, but if it's balanced most of the time, nobody will have any sort of breakdown or anything. Like now, we have such a great, like we have a pattern. We know who's doing childcare on what days, and there are days when like 2, 3 days in a row I don't do childcare and I don't pick them up. I don't, like, I could do what I want. Same with him. So, but we've had to sit down and talk about it because over the years, over the last 5 years or so, we keep seeing people that we know, people around us, they're breaking up, they're getting divorced, they're getting separated. You remember when we spoke and I was like, oh God,
Yes,
like
yes.
no, another one, you know what I mean? Like, so I'm like, okay, I can't be blind to all that. We need to still keep each other together, but at the same time, I have to be selfish. And I learned how to be selfish from my husband because he takes good care of himself, mentally, emotionally, whatever. So I've had to adopt that whole think like a man thing, just so I can stay afloat. Not just afloat, so at least I can stay waist deep and I can see what's going on. I hated the fact that I was constantly reacting to things rather than being
Mhm.
proactive.
I
So
love
it's
that.
taken a lot of work and conversations that were very difficult to have. But I always like the times when I'm like, okay, there are things that he should know as a man, as a couple. But he doesn't. You literally like they don't think that. Men, they don't think as deeply as some of us do. Like they don't see, So, but it's taking a
I
lot of
think it's
work. But yeah,
beautiful. In all honesty, I'm only sharing it for the essence of the listeners. I totally get where you're coming from, but I'm also
no, I
glad
agree.
that you shared that. It triggered so much of
Mm,
wisdom that you actually just shared. I really am
mm,
wholeheartedly for women putting themselves first and looking after
yeah,
themselves.
yeah,
Burnout is
yeah,
real and it's not a joke. And
yeah,
you know, it, life is so fragile. It really is, and
yeah,
I really
hmm
love that essence of leaning into you having that vulnerability to say to your husband, I don't know, but also realizing they
hmm
don't know and just being
No, they're not
loving and
mind
kind to
readers. We
each other.
forget they're not mind readers.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's that conversation. What I really love, I always say to my friends, marry your best friends. Often
Yeah,
we meet partners and we try to turn them into friends, but
yeah.
just marry your best friend. Marry someone that you
We
can
and it's important. That's really important because on the
friendship.
days when I have to really keep it real with him, I'll say to him, babe, I need to speak to you as your friend,
Yes.
not your wife, as your friend. And then I go off on him.
I love it. But that's so important. I
Yeah,
think communication is the
yeah.
essence and key to relationship, right? Building.
Key,
So
the
I love
key is
that.
the
I
one
really
thing I
do.
made him promise. That's
Mm-hmm.
why we broke up for 5 days after we got engaged. There was because I'm like, we need to work on our communication. I
Yes.
can't do silent treatment.
No.
I can't do gaslighting before we knew what the word was. Like I can't. If you don't open your mouth and talk, I can't do. That's the one thing. But I was very clear that we have to communicate. And
That's
every time
beautiful.
I find there's a lull in communication, I bring it up, which is why I wrote him a letter for Christmas, 8 pages of it.
That's absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much for
Yeah,
sharing that. It's
no
amazing.
worries.
Let me move on to the next question. So, next question is: can you describe a time when you felt completely unseen and unsupported as a mother?
Oh God. I think I've given quite a few examples already so far. Um, Unseen and unsupported, definitely, and unfortunately, from the person I lived with, from my husband. And unseen, unsupported. I remember there was a time when it was so bad that the song that kept replaying in my head is an old song. I can't remember the name of the band. There were sets of twins. There was two sets of twins, black girls. American, and I think the song was called Unappreciated. And that song will be playing as an R&B song was playing, or like I'm feeling really unappreciated, like just completely unseen, unsupported. And it was, and I think for me in that scenario, it was mainly based on a tradition thing. So that African tradition thing. And then I had to remind him that after, because you know, when someone says, oh, you should be doing X, Y, Z, and because you're so tired and you're not really paying attention, you kind of start accepting it. And then at some point, you're like, wait, what? So I was like, okay, we are in England. We are both working. And I remember I said something along the lines of, as long as what I'm bringing in is contributed 50% to everything that needs to get paid for this house, every work, every job is both of ours. It's not just my job. It's not a woman's job. I don't know what that means. Like, you know, that sort of thing. You're not gonna. There was a time when son was young when he accidentally said he was gonna help me take care of the baby. Help? So you're gonna help me take care of our baby? Like, I was like, sorry, what did you say? And when I said sorry, what did you say? It wasn't because I didn't hear him, because I wanted him to check himself and correct himself. So I was like, back home, you have nannies, you have drivers, you have all these things. Like the woman literally just sits there and just, does the madame of the house thing. It's not the same thing here. So, but that kind of went on for a while before I was able to be like, this isn't okay. This was before I even had the breakdown. Because I'm like, this is not okay. But obviously, I must have slipped back into that, which is what led to me having burnout, having a breakdown, and things like that. So, that's the only time. Because to be fair, the lady that caught me in my breakdown was at work, and it was at lunchtime, and she said to me, she told me that she believed I had undiagnosed postnatal depression. That I knew, I'd heard of it, but no, I didn't. I was like, my son's almost 2. She goes, if it's undiagnosed, it will carry on for a while. So she held my hands at the, because I was completely gone, and so she had to hold me in the canteen, and then called my boss, and then she's still one of my very good friends now, and then she asked me to be sent home. She was head of HR or something, asked me to be sent home and signed off and everything. So, and then when I happened to go to the GP the next day, which is rare because you never get a next day appointment
Yeah.
normally. But I don't know what I said to them on the phone, and they said like, yeah, come straight in. And I remember I sat there, and it was a lady GP, and I just sat and I was twiddling my thumbs and like my fingers, and I had a full face of makeup. That was one of my coping mechanisms. I was in full drag. And then she literally just, and you know, normally when you get to the GP, they say to you, you have 10 minutes per patient or whatever. But she literally pushed back from the desk and sat like this and said, take all the time you need, because she recognized it. And the minute we started, when the minute I finally started, I said, I'm not really sure I'm here. Work sent me here because it's, and then I said a couple of other things. She goes, it's okay. I've been through it. I understand. So all the professional people that happened, this is why I love women, that happen to be women, happen to be mothers, they saw it, they recognized it, they knew what to do. So the only times I felt unheard and unsupported, unfortunately, was from a man. But apart from that, because I think normally I'm quite good at asking for help if I need help. Because, like I said, people are not mind readers. If you don't say, they don't. And who are you doing strong black woman for? Who are you doing strong woman for? Nobody, because it's only going to be to your detriment. So just ask for help where you need it. But that was that's the only one I can think of was my husband, when I was like,
That's
okay,
beautiful. That's a
you're
very
not
relatable
hearing me, you're
story.
not supporting me, but you live with me and you know me. I don't understand. So, but I had to say to him, like I said before, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm figuring this out. So I need you to be part of this, Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. You know what I really love is that you're inviting the audience and the listeners to actually reflect. And
Yeah.
what stood out for me was really how important the village is. Family
Oh,
support, friendship
massively.
support. I can't emphasize this enough. I think when we think about families, a lot of, especially in the Western world, we tend to live in isolation. You know,
Yeah.
you're working together, you're coming home, you're looking after the kids, and you quite rightly described it. Back home, there's a community of people, there's a
There's
family,
a
a
whole
village,
team. Yeah. You
and
have staff, as we call it.
exactly, and imagine the pressure of that on our nervous system. Imagine how
Hmm.
differently we show up. Imagine how it affects our decision making, our relationships.
Yeah.
There's such a strain because the mother's doing so much, the father's doing so much, and all of life is on their shoulders.
Yeah.
I'm really grateful that you actually shared your personal journey, and
Mm.
having those women step forward and just hold your hand and just say, actually,
Yeah.
step back and just say, just take as long as you need. Because sometimes that's
Yeah.
what we need someone to just be able to look us in the eye and just be able to listen and walk us through that.
Yeah. Yeah. And just see you as a human being. Yeah,
Exactly.
just see you as a human being. And one fact I read about, I think a few months ago, was Black women have the highest rate of having autoimmune diseases because we carry so much. We just hold it in, we just bury it somewhere. And then when it manifests as something, you're thinking, well, being Nigerian, they'll say, my village people are doing me. They're not doing anything to you. You're just
It
not
leads
taking
to
care of yourself.
dis-ease. Yeah, it really
Yeah,
leads
you're
to
just
dis-ease.
holding all these things. You're holding resentment, you're holding anger, you're holding. So I'm just like, no, I'm not doing that.
You know
I
what?
am not
Actually,
going to be that.
I remember something that one of our mentors said to us. Um, he said that you don't have trust issues. He said that so many people have lying issues, and the same goes for us. We don't have resentment issues. So many people just have character issues. You see that the
Mm-hmm,
problem is that we have a society that does a lot of victim blaming and victim shaming.
mm-hmm,
So we're often
mm-hmm.
blamed that why are we not forgiven enough? Why? But actually, is it that we're not forgiven enough over and over again, or do we live in a society that we are constantly forced to deal with these things
Yeah,
and
yeah. They
impact?
shouldn't be happening in the
No,
first place.
no, no.
Like, fix that, and then we won't have to be doing
Exactly,
this bit. Yeah,
exactly. So
yeah,
I'm so glad you shared that. Thank you so much. I'm going to move on to the next question. So the next
yeah.
question is, what has been the most rewarding aspects of motherhood for you?
Oh, I was thinking about that this morning when I looked at that question, and I think for me, honestly, hearing my children laugh,
Mm.
hearing them fight. I mean, one's 2, one's 7, and hearing the 7-year-old crying because the 2-year-old has made him cry. That makes me laugh. Um, just getting cuddles from them. It's my son gives me some sort of review every week or so. Like he'll just tell me about myself and how great I am and this, that,
Oh,
the other.
you.
And it always comes out of the blue. I'm like, do you want something? And he's like, no. So yeah, it's just like every night I go into their room after they're sleeping, and I go and I just look at them, and maybe like I touch their cheek or their arm or something, and I'm just like, it's always that, okay, if I die now, I'll be very happy. So for me, just that they're well, they're happy, they're cared for, they feel safe, all the things you should feel as a child. So for me, I'm like, okay, I'm doing something right, like.
Oh my God, that question is so moving, and your response is so much. It's in addition to that, because like as you're talking, I'm just like melting away, observing. Just like sometimes you look in the crack of the door through and
Yeah,
watching their interaction. That them
yeah,
hugging each other, or
yeah,
you sort of see the younger one being the leader, and it's just
yeah,
so sacred and
yeah,
it's
yeah,
beautiful. I'm so glad that you
yeah.
shared that, and just that those hugs are just precious. And
Oh,
sometimes
those hugs.
we hug them, and
Yeah.
you question who needed that hug more, them or
I
you.
know, I know, I know. I get several a day, especially for myself. Like, Mommy, can I have a cuddle? I'm like, okay. And he knows when I need one as well. He would maybe
Oh,
hear me on the phone or say, okay, Mommy, come here. And then.
yeah.
So yeah,
No one watches
yeah.
us more than our children. That's one thing that they watch us
Yep,
every
yeah,
moment. They
yeah,
notice the slightest shifts, and they're
yeah,
just a ball of
yeah,
love, absolute
yeah,
ball of love,
yeah,
really.
yeah.
So the next question is, what advice would you give to your younger self before becoming a mother?
Um, I would say younger self before becoming a mother. I would
Mm,
say maybe knowing a little bit about who you are, just a little bit, knowing more of who, because I think I was brought up feeling like or thinking what kids need is money to take care of them, because that's
mm,
kind of how my upbringing was money, money, we need to make money, we need money, and nothing else, and that you should be grateful for everything you get. But I'm like, because I remember saying to my dad, well, I didn't ask to be born. So stop blaming me for things that have not. I've been disowned 4 times, by the way. But so I would say for becoming a mother, know yourself, have your values to a degree, but know that things are going to change. Because I think before I was a mom, I like to have a plan. I like to say, okay, this is what's happening, and then this, and then this, and then babies come, and it's like, yeah, whatever. We this is what we're gonna do, and you kind of have to be adaptable and flexible. So be more adaptable and flexible, not so rigid, and know yourself to a degree. Know what your values are to a degree,
Oh, I love
because then that's like setting yourself like a good foundation to build upon once you become a mom. That's
Oh,
what
that's
I would say.
beautiful. That is absolutely beautiful. I think that's so golden the way you actually structured that as well. Thank you.
Mm.
Really, really nice. Um, the next question I have is, how do you balance the emotional weight of being a mother with your personal dreams and aspirations? Oh, I like this one. You will know exactly why.
Well, the good thing with this question is I knew I just wanted to be a mother.
Mm,
That was my number one, apart from I wanted to be a dancer, but I wanted to be a mother. I didn't want to get married. I didn't dream about getting married and all that stuff that is stereotypical of women. I just knew I wanted to be a mom. That one I knew.
mm,
Um, and it was almost like it was only after I became a mom that I thought, okay, I've done this dream now. What are my other dreams and aspirations? And that's the bit I'm still not struggling with, but I'm still thinking about. Like, what are my other dreams and aspirations now? I've achieved this big one, which was the only one I had for so long, nothing else. And I had this thing in my head that my life was not going to start until I became a mom. I always knew that. I didn't know why. I always knew that, but I didn't know what was after that. So
mm,
I'm like, okay, now I have to start having dreams and aspirations. But so I don't really have an emotional weight in that regard because my dream was to be a mom. So like
mm,
I was thinking this morning, the weekend I just had was one of the best weekends ever because took some time off work. So I've been off work since Wednesday and I've just been doing typical mom stuff, like cooking and laundry and ironing. I mean, call me weird, but I find ironing very therapeutic and very calming. Like, get the ironing board out, the big iron, and I was ironing bed sheets, which apparently is useless, but I do. Um,
oh, I do that as well.
so for me, my number one job, I just wish I was getting paid for it, is to be a mom. So
Mm.
so there's no emotional weight, there's no negative, no, even the times that I've had to wake up at 3 a.m. and my daughter thinks it's time to have a rave and I'm up for 2 hours. She'll be
Oh my
singing and dancing. I'm up for 2 hours with her. Like, I don't mind. I'm just like, this is
that,
exactly what I want to be doing.
that's
But go to
beautiful.
sleep now.
You know, as you're saying it, you and I are so similar in so many ways. I love the fact that you shared you always wanted to be a mum. My dream
Yeah.
was to become a mother of six. And when people talk
Oh
about
yeah, so you're
dreams,
almost there.
I'm like, no, no, I'm there. I've got five, that's enough.
Yeah,
I'll
you have
have
one
a
more
bonus
to go.
child.
One
What
more.
I really love is actually being able to wake up and say, I'm living the dream. That is it. I
Yeah.
really wanted to be a mother. That was like
Yeah.
my biggest dream ever. So I totally can relate.
Mm.
Beautiful. Really, really beautiful. Um, I guess just to expand a little bit with regards to I know you're saying, because I know you're young, one's 7, one's 2, and you know where I'm trying
Mhm.
to get you to share a little bit about the books and things that's coming out of you.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
talk a little bit on your personal aspirations and dreams. There's one thing I do know
Mhm.
before we become mothers. I know that motherhood is one of your dreams. There's many
Mhm.
dreams inside of us. You know,
Mhm.
there's so much inside of us that we haven't shared. So
Yeah.
what's some of that that's starting to percolate for you? What's starting to come up?
Definitely exploring my creative side. Most definitely. I have this idea which I've sort of started. I just parked it because I felt like I was too busy.
Mm,
Busy not sleeping. Um, so like I've started a podcast where I'm trying to talk about how to juggle everything, you know. Um, like trying to find yourself as a mom, sort of. Like it's kind of like going to be a diary, my personal diary, but in audio format, like a podcast, so you can follow what I'm doing. So I'm trying to do that, but also I read something that said, what was whatever the first thing you always wanted to be when you were younger, that the one thing you know that if you're doing it, you can lose track of time, you can blah blah blah. And what I've always wanted to be a dancer. So I've actually gone, well, I've re-enrolled at dance school
Oh,
because, yeah, I know, because there's a dance school where I live, and it's only for like actual young people, but they finally launched like an adult one. So, and they had like an open day last year, and I remember I went there. It was like less than 2 weeks after I just had a major operation. I dragged myself there. They got me a chair and a cup of tea, and I sat there. I didn't take part in it, but I watched everything. I was like, right, this is what I want to go back to doing. So that's something I'll work. I think they're going to start back in March or something. So I'm going to start doing that.
in
And
March.
I
That's
mean,
around
it's
the
boring
corner.
things like, I know it's boring things like, I want to go back to learning how to roller skate
Boring.
because I
What would
started
you do?
learning that because I have this idea that I could easily play for the roller derby team. I think some sort of football or roller skates, I don't know. I used to be a professional athlete. I'd like to get back to that. I found out there's something called the Masters program, where it's basically for people that used to be athletes but now over 35. So like they have like their own Olympics and whatever. And I found out that one of their main arenas is here where I live because I went to support a friend that was doing it. So I want to get back into that.
That's
So most of the
incredible.
dreams and aspirations I have are to do with, because I was a proper gym bunny for the longest time. I used to bodybuild for fun. And I played lots of different sports. I did athletics. I did 100 meters, 200. I did the long jump, even though I'm only like 5'2", 5'3.5". So there's those kind of things are what brought me joy that I'm
Mm.
trying to get back, especially the dancing thing. I used to have my own dance group. I used to choreograph. So I'm trying to get back to things like that that I know that, okay, I mean, I've done a few things that if I died, I'll die happy. I've learned how to make shoes. I'm a professional cord winder. I can make shoes from scratch. Um, I've done I've done volunteering for children's charity where they hosted like a World Cup for kids, and I was there. So there's lots of things I feel like I've done, but like there's no like this big dream
Mm.
that I have, so to speak.
I'm glad that you shared those
Um,
aspects. It's really nice to see the interest behind the face. You know, you are a mum, but you have all these very fascinating.
yeah, yeah, I'm more than, which is why I said when I meet people, I don't tend to go with the mum thing
Mm,
first.
I love that.
Because I was me first before I became a mom, and yes, I'm getting to know myself even better. Oh yeah, and I did for my 40th. I didn't want to do what everybody else do, which is just get people to come and eat food that you pay for. I did a music video instead. I
Oh, it's
recreated a Mary
creative.
J. Blige video from start to finish.
Oh,
Filmed it. It's on YouTube.
oh, you have to send me the link. I'd love to see that. It's very interesting. So creative. I love that.
Yeah, so that was when I did that, I was like, okay. And that took everything. It was the first big thing I did on my own without other people. And I remember thinking, I think my second breakdown was actually on because of that thing, because I was so like, and I'm like, yeah, what if it's rubbish? What if it's this? What if it's that? It's still something I want to do. And ever since I did that music video, and not a lot of people knew I was doing until I launched it on my birthday. And I was like, if I can do that, I can do anything. That's how I felt. I mean, I first felt like that when I had my son, because I'm like, if I can grow a human being and we both survived and we're still alive now, I
Yeah,
can do anything. So there's that superpower that comes with becoming a mom. It's like you get
I
this
love
invisible cape
that.
that only your kids can fan it and but yeah, after I did the music video, I'm like, do you know what? If I really sit down and plan and not procrastinate and not fear, because I used to think it was fear of failure, but it's actually fear of success.
Yes, yes.
Because then you know how they say with like people that when you get like that adrenaline hit, you want it more and more and more, which is why they keep saying like once you've done skydiving, you can never get that hit again. That's why most people that go skydiving do it over and over again, because that's the only, you know, you can't get any higher than that. Yeah,
That's interesting.
without drugs.
No, it's very interesting what you're saying, because I remember I didn't know there was such a thing as fear of success until I had my
Yeah,
youngest
it was
daughter.
a friend of mine that told me
Yeah, I didn't know. I
in a
knew it was
voice
fear of
note.
failure. And
Yeah,
I remembered,
I even corrected her,
yeah,
and
exactly.
she goes, no, fear of success. I mean,
That's exactly what I done. I looked at my daughter and I said, Shay, no, like it must be the fear of success. She said, no, mum. She said, I'm scared of how big I can. She was only young, about 8. And she said, I'm so
wow.
scared of how big I am that I just don't want to do nothing. And I was
Yeah,
just like,
yeah,
oh, I didn't realize
yeah,
people had that fear. So
yeah,
makes sense.
yeah. It is.
Thank you for
It really
sharing.
is. I mean, look at Beyonce. She's like, she knows she has to just keep, you know. But yeah, so I've done quite a fair amount that
Thank you.
I try to live with no regrets. So I'm always like,
Mm,
okay, if God said, okay, you're done now, let's come on home. I'm like, you know what? I'm happy. I don't have anything I haven't done yet.
mm,
So yeah.
beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. That's beautiful. Really, really nice. So the next question that I have is, can you share a lesson that you've learned from a mother figure, someone that shaped how you parent today?
I have so many mother figures. Like I said before, I lost my mom when I was 11. I didn't have a great relationship with my stepmom, so I couldn't like latch on to that. Um, but I've had so many aunties and um, people that are just older than you become aunties in our culture. And but it's also like you learn the good and the bad from them. That's because that's how I feel people should look at me, like when I talk to my siblings. So I do the same with when I look at other women. But if I had to share one lesson that shaped how I parent, is maybe I can't remember who I heard it from, because I watch a lot of different things to do with women and mothers, or like so I could get knowledge. It's to remember that your kids are not your property.
Mm,
Like I said before, they've come through you, your vessel that you brought them here. But also one thing that actually there's this spiritual farm I go to a couple of times a year. And I remember the first time I went there was after I had my, I think, third miscarriage before I had my daughter. And she said to me, the lady, she goes, "Oh, don't worry about the miscarriage. You will have a baby. You will have a daughter." I went, "Okay." And but one thing she said was, "Your kids always choose you. Children always choose who they come to this earth through." And I was like, the first thing I said was, "I did not choose that man," as I was talking about my dad. She went, "Yes, you did." I said, "Why would I do that?" She said, "Because he needed to teach you something. And if you didn't come through him and be part of it, you wouldn't have learned that thing. And that thing is money cannot buy you happiness." Because I came from one of the richest families where I grew up back home. But that house where I grew up was like jail, as far as I was concerned. Um, so it's to remember that kids are not your property. They don't belong to you. You shouldn't expect a return on investment. And they chose you. So it's essentially, don't mess it up because they picked you. So don't disappoint them. So that's the big, big lesson. I'm like, okay. And almost every day I say to my kids when they're sleeping, I said, "Thanks for choosing me. Thanks for choosing me." So yeah, that's what I'd say.
oh, it's so hard to listen to this and still talk. It's beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Um, yeah, I love that. Thank you so much for choosing me. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
My next question that I have is, how do you define success as a mother?
Keeping them kids alive every day.
Mm.
But that one, I tell every single mom. I told a mom in the playground the other day that was panicking about something. I'd never met her before. And she was having a flap. I was like, "Is this your first child?" She goes, "Yeah." I said,
Oh,
so we had a conversation and I ended it with, "But every single day you've kept your baby alive. That's there's
exactly.
nothing else. That's success. They're alive, they're well. Nobody's had to go to A&E. You haven't got any bad nursery hasn't called you to say something happened. Like whenever nursery calls me, I hate picking up the phone. But they have to report everything.
Mm.
Um, So it's like, I mean, they called me there to say, oh, they didn't change her nappy in 4 hours. I went, is this why you're calling me? They went, yeah. I went, get off my phone. So every day that you keep your babies alive and well, it's because again, you're the guardian. You're the one keeping them safe. So that's a success. You need
Beautiful.
nothing and just be like
I love
every single day. That's
that. I
it.
love that. I really do
That's
love
it. Nothing else. Doesn't matter what they do, what they become. That is dependent on God, the universe, and them. Your job is to keep them safe and well and alive. Let it not, like, I'm very much like, not on my watch. Like, I
that.
will do this, my favorite job. I take it very seriously. So just keep them alive. That's
That's
it.
beautiful. That is really beautiful. The next question I have is if you could
Mhm.
rewrite any part of your motherhood journey, what would it be and why? If you do, you might not want to.
Yes, the only bit is one I mentioned before where I should have paid better attention. It was kind of sort of during COVID when COVID was we're coming out a little bit. I should have taken my son out of the nursery he was in sooner than
Mm,
I did. That was the one big one that I'm still like, I still thought about it last week and I was like, oh.
mm.
But again, I've learned from it. I don't regret it because I learned from it and I knew what I learned from it. But yeah, that's the only part I wish I paid more attention to to what he was telling me.
I guess what comes to mind now is the fact that you just said it came up recently. What
Mm.
what do you need to learn from that experience so you can actually make peace with it? Why is it still coming up?
You know when okay, we have gut instinct as women, right? But if you're a believer, if you believe in God, if you have faith, if you believe in universe, you believe in all, believe in something, I believe in God. And there's all these little pointers that are being given to you about something, but you're not paying attention. Then eventually God would have to send something quite big to you to be like, okay, fine. I'm paying attention now, but by then there's a lot more work you have to do to, what's the word I'm looking for? It's just a lot more painful by then when you're not paying attention to the initial cues. And I don't tend to speak in codes because I just don't. So I'll tell you exactly why I said that. So in the last couple of weeks at work, so for the last year or so, that ever since I went back from mat leave, there's certain changes that have been happening at work that I wasn't paying attention to. Like I said before, I
Mm,
got demoted essentially and I got docked the money. But it's like all these other things were happening and it's like God or the universe was showing me all these other things I could be doing instead. But I'm like, no, 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 I'm going to stay here. 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 But it's like, no, there's bigger. But you're settling for this. I'm giving you all these pointers, and different people are saying different things. And sometimes different people will be saying the same thing. And I still was not paying attention.
mm,
And I remember I said to myself that the minute I kicked or I evicted my daughter out of my bedroom, which I did when just before she turned 2, and, I served her notice since like July. So she was out in September. I was like, right, I need to sit down and make a plan, my career, blah, blah, blah. And that was when all these little things all these nuggets that had been they started manifesting. And I was like, oh, no, 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 I'll give it another couple of years. And then something massive happened first week of Jan that I was like, oh. And I didn't even feel blindsided. I was like, oh, I was not paying attention. And then it was a thing of I could have left sooner. I should have left sooner.
mm,
Like I should have sorted this out sooner. So that was what made me think about the nursery thing. Like there was all these points about was not paying attention because I think I was just happy that we were out of COVID and
mm.
we could go outside or something. So there's
Yes.
always something that would distract you from paying attention. So this big thing happened and I was just like, huh, okay. I see. And I was angry for about 24 hours. And again, I wanted to burn the building down. But then after that, I was fine. I was like, oh, okay. And it made me realize that I'd crossed over from being in a reactive, fearful state into this other side. And I saw a quote, and I remember I just Googled the other side. I just
Mm,
Googled it. And the first thing that came up was the quote, everything you've ever wanted is on the other side of fear.
I love
So that's actually what I have as a screensaver on my phone
that's
and a
beautiful.
picture of myself.
Oh,
So I can
wow.
remember who I am and the fact that we're not fit. And I went to a women's conference a few years ago and they'd asked us to pick a new name. And I remember I picked this. It says brave on it. It's a rock and it says the word
Oh,
brave on it. And it was the first word that came into my head. This is like no, this was before I had my son, like 8 years ago. And
that's
it always sits
amazing.
on my desk because I'm like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be brave for, but I'm going to put that there so I don't forget. So for me, it was that thing of not paying attention
Wow.
until something big happened. So it was kind of like it was avoidable to a degree. Do you see what I mean? So
Yeah,
that's what made me think about it
that
recently.
makes sense.
Like, you know,
That
the
is
spirit was
beautiful.
telling you,
But I
but you
love,
weren't paying attention.
exactly. I love the stone.
Mhm.
Very relevant to your journey.
Yeah,
Brave. It really
yeah,
describes all aspects of what you've shared.
yeah.
Very, very brave. So the next question I have is, how has societal pressure influenced the way you approach motherhood or view motherhood?
Um, I don't like how I feel women are being penalized for being mothers in very blatant ways. But also, you're telling us there's an aging population. Well, make it easier for us to have the babies then. And like, you're just not making like, so that pisses me off quite a lot. It hasn't changed my approach to motherhood. And I think because it's what something I've always wanted, it doesn't matter. Like, it's very much at any cost. But also again, because I'm a believer, I'm also like according to God's purpose for me.
Mm,
So like I said, I gave up trying after the miscarriage after I had my son. Like, do you know what? If I'm meant to have one, I'm meant to have one. It's fine. I'm so humbled that you've even allowed me to have one. So it wouldn't change my approach, but society is just, I mean, I don't even listen to the news anymore. I don't I recently took myself off like social media again. The only social media I have is LinkedIn.
mm.
But I don't, none of that pressure influences me directly because I don't allow it. Because
That's a very good point you made.
if I do, I'll go back to that thing of, oh my God, I should be doing X, Y, Z. And then before I know it, I'll be going back and I'm not going back down there again
No,
because,
but
like I said before, I don't care.
yeah, no, but I love the fact that you highlighted a very valid point. You know, one of my children actually said to me, "Mum, why does the world hate women so much?" You know,
Oh,
it's such a relevant.
I've been having conversations with God, right? Where I've said, when I come back, if I come back, I don't even know if I want to come back to this earth. When I come back, I want to come back as a lovely American boy named Chad. A lovely Caucasian American tall jock named Chad or Brad, something like that.
I love it, very specific and clear.
Have you
Oh,
not heard the phrase that said, when you ask him for God things in prayer, be
mm-hmm.
specific,
And clear, exactly.
very clear. And I want to be able to move. I need to have rhythm because, Mm. But I want to be beautiful and gorgeous, but also so nice. People are like, it's impossible. You can be this good looking, this tall, this athletic, this everything. And you're also like, philanthropic and like just perfection, but a man.
Oh, brilliant. So, my next question is, what role has community played in your journey, whether it's been a source of strength or something you've struggled to find?
Not struggle to find because, like I said, the more you're good at asking for help, the
Hmm.
more you can build your community. And as the people in the drag community would tell you, you build your own family that way. So there are people that are moms that I knew just from energy, we're not gonna get along. I'm an energy person, so I'm just like, nah, I'm not the kind of person that would do well with friends that just talk about girl stuff. Like, I don't
Hmm.
know, hair and bags and I don't. But yeah, so for me, I have picked my community as I've gone along. But again, when I hold that knowledge within me that I have everything within me to do this motherhood thing, I've got everything I need to do it. Having that community is also very important. And I think there's only two, no, including my sister, there's three other women that are allowed to have my children. Only three. I don't just, and those three, they're all in my will. So there's no, and they with the nursery, they were like just those three. But apart from that, it's community is important. It's great to have it, to know it's there. It's like a nice security blanket. Like I've got my neighbor across the road. She's also Nigerian. She's got 4 kids, and she's like, "Oh, you can always bring the kids." I'm like, "Yeah, but your dog keeps trying to eat us." So that's the only reason why. It's about this big, but oh my God. So so it's great to have that. Like I call them my break in case of emergency. I have them dotted around.
Mm.
So like my friends know, like, I have, you have close friends, you have wider friends. Da, da, da. So the ones in the outer circle, they know that if I'm calling you, I've called my call for and they're busy. So they will drop everything. And because I ask for help, I offer help. So, and I think when you're the kind of person that when people come to you for help, you help, they do the same, they replicate the same thing to you. So it's great to have that. It's absolutely essential to have it, but not you don't always need it, but it's good to have it there.
Beautiful. I love that. Community is so important, really is important.
Yeah.
My next question is, what do you wish people understood about the emotional labor of being a mother? Now, I know we discussed elements of this. If there's anything else that comes up, it's fine to answer
Yeah.
this.
Mm. Mm. There's a mental load. I watched a video that a man, and I don't often listen to men, that a man posted on Instagram when I was there last year. And the good thing I like about this guy, I think he used to be a pro NFL athlete. I don't know, he's American.
Mhm.
And he does a lot of postings when he's the one watching the kids. And one thing he was saying was that he didn't realize how much a mental load women carry. So there's all the other actual physical things you have to do, but there's that mental, you're always calculating something in your head, be it money, be it like I had to do a quick mental calculation about nappies last night, and I knew that if I hadn't done that, we would run out of nappies this morning. So already by 10 o'clock, the Amazon delivery is here with the nappy. Do you know what I mean? Like, but that's something, and I always say to my husband, when you took out the last packet and you put them in the nappy caddy, did you have access to the Amazon account? Why didn't you order? So but like I'm like, okay, so there's this mental load that we carry. Like already I'm like, okay, what are the kids eating? So all weekend I've cooked. So it's not like, oh, what's for dinner? And everyone's looking at me. Why are you looking at me? We all live here. So there's that mental load that women carry. And I wish people, men, would understand that because it's things like, are the uniforms washed? Like I realized the other day, his socks are too small. And because I could hear my husband trying to force them on him, I'm like, they're too small. Like you go to Morrison's every 10 minutes, buy socks. Like there's this calculation we're always doing. Okay, I need to go to this place. Will I be back in time for blah? So that mental load, that meme where they ask this woman a question, you just see her doing like formulas and stuff. That's us all the time. Like you're talking to me and I'm already like, okay, I think I made lasagna. So, like there's something
Always
going on in
thinking
the
about
back
something.
office. There are times when I've woken up in the middle of thinking, I need to put the dryer on.
Yeah,
That things like that. Well,
totally relate.
otherwise you're gonna have to iron the trousers to get them dry in the morning. So there's always all these
Absolutely.
calculations you're doing. So the mental load is what I wish people understand
Mm, thank you.
and
I'm
can
really glad
can
you shared.
can can put their shoes. And to hear a man talk about it, he was like he didn't know until his wife said it.
Mm,
It's like, okay. So yeah,
very
that's what I'd
true.
say.
And a lot of women talk about when you have a partner or a husband that has that level of emotional intelligence to just tap in and know how to do that, to take away
Well,
that
just
mental
ask.
load.
He just asked.
Yeah. And
He just
exactly.
asked. He
Exactly.
just said, okay, what do I need?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm doing the food. What do I need? And she's like, all these other things I have to plan ahead.
Yeah.
Like already my son's asking me where we're going for summer holidays because we didn't go anywhere last year. We didn't leave the country.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why are you asking me? Go ask that man over there.
Mm,
But guess who's gonna plan everything?
yeah. No,
And
it's
only because if I don't, we'll end up in some sort of Butlins motel.
Oh gosh. Thank you so much. Really beautiful. I'll move on to the next question. So next question that I have
Okay.
is, what legacy do you hope to leave for your children?
The main thing is you can do absolutely anything you want to. You have everything within you to achieve anything that you want to do. But you also need an anchor. You need something. So some people use their faith. Mine is my faith for sure. And it doesn't matter what religion, as long as you have that faith that anchors you, that guides you, and most of the time it comes from your gut. So, but just know that you can achieve anything. Don't let society tell you anything about because of your skin color, because of your gender, because of you can do anything. And I wish there was a way to, that innocence that children have, that innocence, that fearlessness. When I see my daughter say to her brother, "Hey," I'm like, "Oh, it's about to go down." Like she doesn't take, we call her Madame. I've called her Madame from the womb because I just knew there's this thing she has and she
Energy.
listens.
Yeah.
Like through pregnancy, I'll be like, okay, baby, don't come early because mommy needs to do X, Y, Z. Da, da, da. She's even feel like she is a great listener. And she'll listen. We have conversations too, but we still have, I talk to both of them from birth. I never did baby speak. I just talk to them normally. So it's just giving them that thing. You can do whatever you want. Like, I don't even know how many different things my son has tried since he was born. He's tried ballet, he's tried football. We're going to do drums the other day. He's tried keyboard, he's tried like anything. Yeah, okay, come on, let's go. Like, just know that, and another thing I read or I saw a video of when kids fall down or when they're playing, and like, oh, be careful, be careful. I don't really do that because I'm like, let them fall. Let them fall. I saw someone in the playground. Oh no, dude. I was like, let her fall. What's the worst that could happen? The hospital is just over there. What's the worst? If she breaks the leg will fix itself. They're young. Like, let them do things. Let them just ask them how he felt. And that's how they're gonna learn. Let them learn. Don't you can't protect them from everything. So the least you can do is make sure, like I always say to my son, never lie. He knows that. Never ever lie to me because I will never stop loving you. And if you lie, if you do it, if the minute I stop trusting you, I can't help you. So, and if you did it, I will call the police. He knows that. So it's the legacy is you can do whatever you want to do, but you have to have integrity. You have to have faith. And you have to, I don't want my kids to have any sort of fear. It took me years to become brave. So I don't want them to have any fear at all. Like if they're doing anything dangerous, I just what's the phrase I learned recently is you either win or you learn.
True. Very
You
true.
don't lose. You win or you learn. There's no losing. So that's what I would.
Next question is, it's really nice sharing that. Thank you. The next question is, how has motherhood transformed your relationships, whether that's with your partner, friendships, family, etc.?
The biggest thing for me that is transformed is my relationship with my dad,
Mm.
which is weird. And so myself and my dad, we didn't really have a close relationship. I would call it a financial transaction. I paid for your school fees, you go and work and you pay me back. That's how we expected it to be. But so when I became a parent, even though I'm not a man, I'm a parent. So I kind of understood his thing of I need to make money, and coming from the society in Nigeria where we're from, your financial whatever is your status. It defines everything about who you are as a person. But my dad had me when he was 21. And so then he had to marry my mom. So, shotgun wedding and that. But I'm always like, now I'm like, I can, it's humanized him a bit for me because I try and think about what he must have been like when I was like the age of my children and he was 20 something and he had a wife, he had a baby. and he had to, so it's like, and it was only maybe not last year, the year before, we had a big fight about something, about nothing. It was a massive fight, but it was just before I was going to my spiritual farm. And it was when I got there, the lady looked at me, she goes, "What's happened?" And I said, "Yeah, I had a big fight with my dad, but I don't even know where it came from. It was very out of the blue." She goes, "Well, yeah, if you're coming here to work on yourself, the universe needs to give you something to work on. So you clearly need to work better on your relationship with your dad." And and then I went through the whole thing with her, and she goes, "How would you feel if your children did to you what you did to him in terms of what I said in the conversation?" And I was like, "I'll be devastated." And she goes, "Okay." And that was the first time I humanized him. And I remember I sent him a long message apologizing, not for what I said, but for how I said it.
Wow.
So I sent him a long message. And normally, the few times I've apologized to my dad about whatever, only because I know he wants to hear it. That was the first time it was a genuine one. And I was expecting nothing back from it. And he replied and he goes, "Thank you for apologizing. I understand and I love you," or something. Things he would never say. And I looked at him like, oh my goodness. So
Wow.
for me, it was just good to see, to like put yourself in the other person's shoes. And also, one other advice the lady gave to me is, once you start changing into what you should be or whatever, the other person has no choice but to follow suit, because,
True.
and if it's coming from a place of genuine love, and so for me, it's definitely changed my relationship with my dad. And there are times when he'd call me and he'd hear my daughter doing something, and my daughter looks exactly like his mom, like exactly. It's mad. And I said, and I think there was a time he called like maybe 8 o'clock, and trying to get her to sleep. She was about maybe just over one. And I'm literally, when they're just having a ball on the bed, not in her bed, not in her cot. And I'm holding her by her ankle to stop her going over the bed because she just wants to hang upside down. And
Yeah.
I'm on them like, "Dad," because he kept calling me. I'm like, "Dad, what's it?" I'm trying to get her to sleep. And I was like, "Jerry, come here." And he's like, "What's she doing? Is she jumping up and down? Is she doing this? Is she doing that?" He was like, and as I was saying, yeah, he was just laughing his head off. And he goes, "That's exactly how you were when you were her age." And that was the first time my dad had ever mentioned anything about my childhood to me. We
Oh,
don't talk about anything. It's always about money. Like, oh, he needs money for this, blah, blah, blah. Read your book, go to school. Growing up, we don't have any other relationship. So I was like, "Oh, okay." And then he called on the weekend and he asked for that. I said, "They're sleeping, Dad. It's 7:30." He's like, "Oh, I thought they'd be sleeping later, blah, blah, blah." I went, "What's the pro?" Because I just wanted to speak to them. I'm like, "Oh, okay." And that was a new thing. So for me, I now humanize him. So for me, that's what's changed, because I'm like, "Oh, okay."
that's beautiful.
And this is not, he's got other grandkids, so it's not like this is his first,
Yeah.
so
Oh,
that's definitely what I would say has changed. Mass for me, that's quite impactful for me
that's
personally.
incredible. Like, that's such a
Yeah,
moving share. Thank you.
yeah,
This question, you may feel that you sort of answered it, but I'm going to ask it anyway. So it says,
yeah.
what's the most unexpected lesson you've learned from your children?
Oh, I learn from them every single day. Oh, there's one I remember, because I do remember this, thinking about this question. We were on holiday a couple of years ago. My son was, I want to say, four and a bit, and I was in the midst of, "I want another baby, I want another baby." I couldn't think of anything else. I was doing all the ovulation tests and blah blah. But anyway, I was on holiday with my sister and her two kids, and I bought my son an ice cream. And I remember that morning, I just found out that my period came, which I was very disappointed because I was convinced I was pregnant. So I was in that mood. We went to Dubai, and because COVID, they were just opening borders, and all the normal amenities we like in the hotel being stripped off because of COVID. Like they even took the carpets off because of like, so it wasn't the same experience. So I was fuming even more because I'm like, "I've come all this way and you don't even," anyway. So I was in a foul mood. And then my son's holding his ice cream, and then the wind kept blowing. And he said to me, "Mommy, can you stop the wind so that it doesn't blow my ice cream off?" And
Oh,
I just flippantly went, like, "What do you want me to do? I can't tell the wind to stop. I'm not Jesus." And that's what I said to him. And my sister looked at me and said, "But to him, you are." And I was like, "What?" She goes, "To him, you can do anything. You can make anything happen. That's how he sees you." And that broke something within me, in terms of showing me how I'd been not neglecting him, but because I was putting all my focus into trying for another baby, I wasn't actually with him properly, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And that for me was quite a big thing for me, I'd say.
Wow, that's amazing. I
Like
really love.
just to see how they see you
Yeah.
in a way. Because it's like, Mommy, make the wind stop. I'm like, I can't, I'm not Jesus. My
Wow.
sister said to him, you are.
That is so
You can do
powerful. To
anything. You
him,
can
you
make
are.
anything happen. I went, no.
That's
Okay.
perspective. That really is perspective. Beautiful. So the next question I have is, if
Mhm.
you could change one thing about how society views or supports mothers, what would it be?
Just make it easier. Make make motherhood or the prospect of it easier. Pay better maternity pay.
Mm,
Have better childcare services. I know women that are not having babies because it's so expensive. When the first time I told someone how much I was paying for nursery fees, it was a very young person, she was 24 at the time. She said, "Oh, Auntie, do you mean per year?" I went, "No, that's for a month. What do you mean per?" Like, she goes, I went, "Yeah." Like, just make it cheaper. In South Korea, do you know now, after you have a baby, they send you and the baby off to a farm, like a health spa, for 3 months on the government, where there's nannies on call. You go do spa stuff every day, and I think you come, you have a cuddle, have a breastfeeding, and then, like they because like make it easy. In which other country is it? Sweden or somewhere, some Scandinavian country, they and like it's just this UK. Like just make it easier.
beautiful.
Don't penalize women for having a kid. I had to stay at a job paying 17 grand less just so I could have a baby because I knew nobody was gonna hire a pregnant woman. It's just not gonna happen. Even when I started looking for work again, when my baby was 3 months old, I couldn't tell all the interviewees that I literally had to go to the car to pump breast milk. I couldn't tell them I had a 3 month old. I just said I had two kids. So it's like make it easier. Like when I hear them arguing back and forth in the House of Commons, whatever it's called, I'm like, first of all, it's men. So I'm like, you need to shut up and speak to actual women
Yeah.
about just make it easier.
Yeah.
Give them everything they need where even they have to be like, why don't I want to have a baby? You know, make it, we're not saying pay us for it. I mean, pay us for it. But you know what I mean? Just make it easier.
Yeah.
Make it easier. If a woman wants to take 6 months off, pay her for 6 months off and say after, like, just make it easier. Don't
So
give companies the choice to pick if they want to do enhanced mat leave or like just make it easier. Especially
well
when you're saying you
said.
have an aging population, people are not having babies, just make it
Well
easier.
said. Absolutely well said. Thank you.
Mm,
The next
mm.
question I have is, what's the most misunderstood part journey of sorry, what's the most misunderstood part of journey of motherhood?
That is hard. That when people give you all the, oh, you never sleep again, you never have your body back, you like all this nonsense that you hear. I don't like it. And my brother's wife just gave birth, and I remember I said to her, every advice everyone's gonna give you, let it go in, and whatever's meant to stay will stay in your brain. Filter out the nonsense. Everybody's different. Like, don't, because people are, oh, I won't sleep again. I won't have my body back. It costs a lot of money. Blah, blah, blah. There's so much stigma sometimes around motherhood that it's not true. It's not, oh, labor is painful. Go for elective C-section like I did the second time round. Like, oh, there's like just too much noise and people trying to scare you. And again, it goes back to that fear thing, that fear mongering. I don't like it. And I don't remember the labor pains. I don't remember at all. So I mean, nothing is as painful as having foot surgery, which I have had done. Labor was nothing compared to foot surgery pain. So just people just need to stop making it a bad thing. Like people don't talk about the good things enough. Like I still remember the first time each of my kids that when they hugged me, their arms could go around my neck properly. out, like that's when they're like, oh, because normally when they cuddle you, their arms just go like that. But when it goes all like when it all goes around your neck and they're strangling you, you're like, okay, like nobody talks about things like that. So
Yeah,
it's
I
just
love
people
that.
just need to stop making it all the bad stuff. It's not even bad stuff, it's part of it. And you
Yeah,
forget all of that once you look at them and you think, okay, do you know what? I'm raising a diamond here, so
yeah, that's
whatever. It takes
beautiful.
work.
I
Yeah.
love that. Yeah, I love that. The good, the bad, and everything is all aspects of mother.
Everything. I want
I
it
love
all. I
that.
want
Yeah,
everything. Yeah.
I really
You
love
need
that.
something for when you're telling them off later as well,
Yeah,
anyway. So
exactly. So how has motherhood changed your perspective of yourself, your goals, and life in general?
definitely that I can achieve anything if I plan better and just believe in myself a lot better. I didn't think I could be a mom because I didn't have one. I used to think like, okay, I don't know if I could be a mom because I don't know what I'm supposed to do, blah, blah, blah. But then whenever I'd go back to the thing of the only thing I've ever wanted is to be a mom, which is it's a complete contrast to not having one. So it's just that I can do anything I really want to do, but I can also choose to just enjoy life and with the simple things, like just very simple things. I'm one of those people that I notice simple things. I notice, oh, there's a new flower. Oh, that squirrel is really loud today. What's the matter? Has he lost it? You know what I mean? Like little things like that. Like, okay, that snail needs to be moved from there to there because it can't go on the pebbles. Like simple things that people are like, what's wrong? Why are you saving snails? I said, because you're gonna step on it if you like just simple things and seeing things from a child's eyes and just it's just beautiful to just, I'm just not worrying about anything because worry doesn't do anything. I think after I became a mom, I chose to tell myself that worrying was a sin because most moms worry. They worry all the time. I'm like, what has worry never done for you? Has it paid your rent? Has it given you anything apart from a headache and maybe a bigger waistline because now you're eating too much? Like, so for me, once I decided worrying was a sin, I just like, okay, because worrying is a way of you saying you can do things in your own power rather than God, the universe. So I'm just like, you know what? So I'm more free spirited now. I mean, I was before, but now, like, I don't care. I'm very,
That's beautiful.
I
So
don't care, but like in a good way, like
yeah, no, I
just,
understand.
just live. Yeah,
That's
just live.
amazing.
Yeah,
I can't thank you enough for this space. It's been amazing. We're coming to the final half of this interview, so we've got some trivia
that's okay.
questions here. Um,
Okay.
so, if your children were to write a book about you, what do you think the title would be?
Oh, my son would probably, well, I would want the title to be it's something my son said to me. I think he was 3 or 4. I did something and I was telling him that it was something I was scared to do. Like I'm talking to a 3-year-old, like, and I did it. And I was like, oh my God, I did it. And he said, good boy, mommy. So that would be the book title, Good Boy, Mommy. I'm like, thank you. So yeah, I've even said that I'm gonna put on a t-shirt, Good Boy, Mommy.
So
So
funny.
yeah, so whenever he wanted to say I've done a good job, say good boy, mommy. I'm like, thank you, baby. So yeah,
That's
be
so
good boy,
cute.
mommy.
Second question. What's the funniest mum fail moment you've ever experienced?
Oh God. There's been a few, and when I was thinking about this one this morning, and I was really racking my brain. But I think the funniest one recently, which was it was funny to other people, not for me.
Mhm.
So summer holiday last year was long, and I think because we didn't leave the country. It was so long. So when it was time for them to go back to school, I was so happy. Like I had the uniforms ready. I mean, my daughter was going to nursery, so she was like, it's just that 7-year-old, the talking. Oh my God. So I was like, okay, it's going back, whatever. So I'd got all the everything ready and we have like a group chat, like the school, the year group. So I was like, oh, Happy New Year. Oh my goodness, are you guys looking forward to dropping them all? Blah, 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 blah. I put all of that in there. And then one of my friends, she's one of the mom on the group, but she's also one of my very close friends. She now messaged me separate to go, you do know they start on Wednesday, not Tuesday. I was like, I was like, no. And because she knows me so well, as soon as she sent that message, she sent me a screenshot of the school's website where it has the date because she knows I'm going to argue. I was like,
Oh,
and she just said, I'm going to just leave this here and have a good day. I was so mad. I was so mad, Sabrina. I don't remember the last time I was that mad, but apart from this January, I was so mad. So it was funny in the end, but it was even my husband was just laughing his head off. I'm like, you don't even know when they go back. You don't even know data. I don't know why you're laughing. But I would have got to school and be like, we're really early. I've not opened the gate. So that was the recent one that
oh,
it
that's
was a full
so
mum fail and I
funny.
was devastated. But I laughed about it later on. Yeah.
Oh, so sorry to laugh. I had to laugh because that is so relatable. So funny. I've done that. Oh, wow, that's funny. So the next question is, what's your go-to hideout when you need a break?
Here, I'm in my woman
I
cave.
love that
This
woman cave.
this part is my office, and that part I've got my lovely sunset lamp, which you can see in the corner. I've got my armchair. I've got my footstool. I've got my makeup. I've got my fairy lights. Everything. I've got my wall plan. I've got wallpaper that's just green. So this is my woman cave,
I love
and I
it.
haven't put a lock on the door yet, which I will do soon. And nobody's allowed in here unless they're invited.
I love
Nobody, not even the little one.
I
Nobody is allowed in here. So yeah, this is it's either here and before, well, or the bathroom, because that's the only room with the lock. Sometimes I just go in there, just lock the door, and they'll be banging on the door. But here they know they're not allowed to come in here. So
I
yeah,
love that. I
definitely.
love
Every woman needs a woman cave, whether you have
mm,
kids, whether you don't. Like it can't just be the kitchen, the living room, and the bedroom. We need to have our own
I
space.
love that.
So,
That's
like,
so
I
important.
literally wasn't going to give this up for this should have been my daughter's room. Like, no, when she starts earning rent, she can go and get her own room. But until she pays something in this house, no.
I love that's beautiful. It's funny when you
Mhm.
say the toilet, like so many mothers can relate that you go to the toilet and it seems like they all follow you as ducks in the
They
row.
just follow
They
you
just
and they start banging
you're
on
like,
the door. And you're like,
follow dad into the toilet. Why'd you
no.
follow me?
Oh, they follow you. And there are times in the middle of the night, I get up to go eat. My daughter wakes up as though she's in our bed. And I have to hold her on my lap while I'm like, I just got motherhood. I literally just got motherhood and I
Yes,
smiled because
absolutely.
it's
Enjoy it
what
while
I
it lasts.
wanted.
They grow
So
up so
yeah,
quickly.
yeah,
They really do.
exactly.
Right. So the last trivia question is, what's the strangest thing you found in your child's pocket or backpack?
I haven't found that much.
Oh, mine used to collect
Mm,
worms and all kinds of things.
my son always has because he always doodles a lot on paper, so he always has it in his pocket.
Oh,
But last week when I went to pick him up from after school, they had it in his backpack, but they brought it out and gave it was a bag full of all the fruits we've been sending him to school with since the beginning of this term
no way.
that he was not eating.
Oh,
And they gave it to me, and the lady said, we did this because it's not fair that you're spending all this money and he's not eating any of it. So it was, I think all the satsumas were still fine. There was about maybe, I don't know, 12 in there. And all the bananas were obviously like rotten and stuff. And then they've just been saving everything because, and when they gave it and I looked at his face, you could tell that he was happy that it wasn't his dad picking him up that day.
oh.
So that was when I was like, okay. But yeah, so that's the strangest thing because I'm like, but
Oh,
apart from that, he doesn't bring anything home really. He used to bring home rocks and stuff, but
yeah,
his nursery then was a forest school, so that was kind of normal,
yeah.
and he'd want me to keep it. So I have a whole box of rocks
Oh, bless
and
him.
sticks.
That's so sweet.
Yeah.
So this is the final quarter. It's just made up of 7 questions, and these
Okay.
are closing questions. So
Mhm.
if our community of listeners could support you
Mhm.
in 3 transformative ways, what would you ask for?
The one thing I have been not struggling with, but struggling to find, and I mentioned this at work because at work we have like a colleagues resource group for different things like race, women, parents, blah, blah, blah. So one thing I realized from conversation was for a mom going back to work, you kind of, and it was because someone was talking about it, I was like, yeah, this is true. You kind of don't really know how to get back on track with your career, right? So there's a difference between, because one of my mentors helped me realize that at the moment I have a job, I don't have a career. So we need something, a way of relaunching our career.
Okay.
Like, let's say I want to get back to leadership. Because once I became pregnant with my son, I stopped taking managerial positions because I'm like, I have to learn how to manage these people. I can't now come to work and do the same thing. So I didn't want to manage people. I didn't want to manage people anymore. But now I'm thinking about going back to it. But there's that thing of, can I still do it? Can I? So it's almost like, you know how apprentices have different things they have, like a trajectory, like not training, but some sort of program. So it's almost like we need some sort of leadership acceleration program for women that want to get back into leadership. That, let's say, in 6 to 9 months or a year's time, you can go from here to here, and this is how you're going to do it. That thing. So I've brought it up at work. They're gonna, whoever the people are going off to do work on it or whatever. And I said, yeah, you can come back to me for any further. I always have lots of ideas, by the way. You can have lots of different. Mate, honestly, Sabrina, if you ever need ideas, come to me. I have loads. So something is what that would be great, and it would be great if it was done by women, because only women understand some of these things, like imposter syndrome, uh procrastination, whatever you want to call it, is that thing of, like, to the point where sometimes I'm like, okay, I wish my kids didn't grow up so quickly so I have more time to be like, oh, I'm a young mom, I've got young kids, like that excuse. But it's very glaring to me, like my daughter's going to start big school in 2 years' time. And by then I need to be like, okay, I'm ready to get back on this career thing. So that would be great. So if any of you listeners, please find me and tell me, so it could be like done as a mentoring thing or as a coaching thing of how you can just get back on a career trajectory as opposed to just having a job.
Fantastic. What's one way you plan to pay it forward as a result of having this conversation today? Is there a way that you would like to?
I'm more than happy to speak to as many people as want to. I have this big passion for women in general. Like, if you told me now you need to go fight somewhere, Sabrina, I'll come. We'll go fight. I'm very, no, honestly, especially if it's a man, I'm very pro women. I don't like girls being told to think this way or that. No, they can do whatever they want. I'm a feminist. It took me a long time to realize that's what I was. Actually, it was my husband that told me I'm a feminist. So I don't like any sort of unfairness or injustice towards women and girls. I can't stand for it. I might even die on the line for it. Like, I don't like it. Your gender shouldn't dictate anything. So for me, a lot of the young girls at church, they have my personal number. They ask me questions. They can ask me about anything. Like, how sometimes there's some aunties that you can only know. I'm very like, this is how I am all the time. There's nothing embarrasses me.
Yeah.
Like, if I know about it, I'll talk to you. If I don't know, I'll tell you I don't know, and I'll tell you who does know. But it's just for women to know that you are all wonderful. You're amazing. I think women are super heroes in disguise. That's what I think. I think we're all born with a cape that is going to take nurture and community for you to, like, how when a butterfly comes out of a thingy and it needs time for the wings to from wet. I watch Sky Nature all the time, by the way. So I know lots of random facts. So it takes a while for the thingies. So it's just for women to know that you're born with those wings. You just need time to get them dry and to spread them. And you can do whatever you want. Let them call you all the names. It's not going to do anything. So for me, I would love to speak to young women about what can what they can accomplish, even if they feel like they've started off at a disadvantage, like how I used to feel. And the minute I shook off that victim mentality, I was like, nah, you kind of have to know whose you are. And if you believe you come from a superior being, nobody can tell you nothing.
I love that. That's beautiful. My next question is how do you hope sharing your story on this podcast will impact others?
Again, like I said, even if you feel you've been born, at a disadvantage, or you've had things that have happened in the past that has put you at a disadvantage, you can change it. If you change your mindset and you believe, you have to believe. Blind faith, as hard as it is, you need it. I'm actually going to get a tattoo here that says blind faith on my wrist, because I needed reminding. And you just know that there are people out there that have been through worse, but also they survived. It didn't, life is nothing if not a big test. So there's going to be ups and downs, but you have to take the good with the bad. You have to celebrate we celebrate half birthdays in this household. Like, we celebrate everything. Like, celebrate life. Life is too short. If you want to do something, go do it. If you're afraid, how do they say, do it afraid?
Yeah.
Because you don't want to live with no regrets. Just do it anyway. And I know you told me this when we spoke about the whole book thing. Just do it. But I think one thing about community, and this sort of community that you're putting together, that you've put together, is you can learn so much from different people. And that, for me, I only listen to women. You can learn so much from someone. Can say something that doesn't even mean anything to anybody else, but I'll take something from it. And the more we share, the more we grow, I think.
Absolutely. Thank you. So these are the final 4 questions. You've done amazing. I really want to thank you for your time.
Thank you.
So, first one is, what are you proud of yourself for?
Not giving up, even when it was the easiest thing to do, which I've also chosen to refer to as ostrich mode. So, when stuff is going on with ostriches, they just stick their head in the sand, because if they can't see you, then it's not happening. So I used to use ostrich mode a lot and just be like, oh no, okay. But there's so many times it's been shown to me that I am the one that has to speak up. I am the one that has to do something. And I was like, oh, okay. So that's my answer to that, in a very roundabout sort of way.
Right. So the next one is, what do you want to say sorry to yourself for?
Oh my God, Sabrina, that's a full therapy question.
And you can keep it short here, but these questions are, the reason they're the final questions, because as the guest, these are things I want you to walk away with.
Sorry. Oh God, sorry for not fully believing sooner. Sorry for not believing sooner that I can do this thing called life on my own. Or sorry that I didn't realize sooner that I have to do it on my own. Nobody's gonna hold your hand, and So yeah, that's the only thing I'd say, maybe.
Beautiful. The next one is.
But I'll go think about that deeper now.
Yes, please do. You've got the questions as well, so please do. Those 4.
I will. Yeah.
Next one is, what do you have to forgive yourself
for? Nothing. I know that sounds a bit conceited, but I've done so much work on myself, so much unpacking, that every time I think I've forgiven myself or something, I go back and find something else to forgive myself. So nothing. Like I said, I think I mentioned before, the thing of not taking my son out of nursery sooner. Yeah, every other thing I've managed to tackle and face, but nothing, absolutely nothing.
That's beautiful. Nothing. So what do you have to thank yourself for?
Also, yet again, for not giving up. There were so many times when it was so easy to give up, so easy to run away from the situation. Just so easy. And I'm just so thankful that I paid attention to my intuition and just believed that something better was coming. Like, so I'm thankful that I'm always in that positive mindset of something's better is going to happen. This nonsense, this bad thing is temporary, and everything's going to happen for the highest good.
That is beautiful.
So I'm thankful that I have that disposition naturally, that I'm just like, okay, so yeah.
That is beautiful. So this final question is actually not one that you
Mm,
answer. It's one you take away with you. So what are
okay.
you willing to let go of and heal from as a result of today's conversation? And that's one that you just keep here. This is not for the listeners. This is just for you.
Okay. Okay. I know what it is. Um, I do know what it is, but okay. I'll take that away.
And when you say you know what it is, you feel you want to share because it's not something you necessarily have to. It's
No,
just
I can share. I don't mind sharing. It's like
is it necessary to share?
I'll put it in a phrase that someone told me last week is if if you feel like people are trying to put you in a box constantly, that means you're doing something right and they feel threatened by you. Yeah, so that's what I've been thinking about. And, you know, some of us just have different talents to other people, and not every time fight. Not every time start shouting. Not every time angry black woman. Sometimes keep it cute and just and
Absolutely.
just as we say in Nigeria, show them. Just show them.
Oh wow. I can't thank you enough. I really thank you for answering all these questions. It wasn't easy, but you have shared so much wisdom. It's absolutely remarkable. Like from the bottom of my heart, thank you. To the
Thanks, Sabrina. This has
no,
been
you're
therapy for me, honestly. These are questions I've never thought about or been asked before. And yeah, and I'm so glad I have the questions because I might have to go like write down my answers and stuff. And I think mostly for what's it, posterity, is that what you call? Like so my kids can see it, like
mm,
in years to come, like they can
I see
see
what
it
you
that
mean.
as of this moment when they were 7 and 2, these were my answers. And yeah, so it
Oh,
will be
that's
part of my legacy to have this. So thank you.
no, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Honestly, thank you. I've got a message to the listeners. So here's a call to action for our listeners. Listeners, let's turn words into action. If you're moved by today's story, think about how you can support or offer any form of support, no matter how big or small, whether it's through a kind message, a shared resource, or connecting with our guests. Let's build a community, let's uplift and empower each other. As mothers, we're always going to be better together. And,
Yes.
like I said, thank you to yourself and thank you to our listeners. Thank you so much for tuning in to the unheard cries of a mother. Your story matters, and together we can create ripple effects of understanding, support, transformation. If today's
Yes.
conversation resonated with you, please like, comment, subscribe, and share this episode. And until next time, let's keep lifting each other up and turning unheard cries into powerful voices. I can't thank you enough again. Thank you so much. I know this is just the beginning. This is not going to be the end.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure getting
Yeah.
to know you, and let's look forward to seeing all the amazing things that you go on to create. And keep in touch, like I said. And I wish
You're
you
gonna get rid of me now, Sabrina.
wish you every success with what you do. And thank you so much
And you,
for
thank you
sitting
so
here
much for
today.
having me. It's an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much.
You take
You're
care.
doing this is a great thing you're doing.
Oh,
It's
bless
a
you.
really good thing. Really